Very good morning to all of you. I'm honored today to have with us representatives from the Embassy of Panama in India, Professor Rodolfo de Gracia Reynaldo, our speaker, and Ms. Meenakshi Mishra, Director and Zonal Head, East, ICCR, Kolkata. So we would begin by welcoming our guests in the traditional manner of Shantiniketan. I would request our students to welcome our guests, and I would request our teacher-in-charge, Dr. Dhiman Bhattacharya, to present them with the Uttoriyo. Now there are some small gifts for our guests on behalf of the Center for Comparative Literature. Plant. And some of our publications, which I would request our colleague Dr. Shoma Mukherjee to present to our guests.
Is that publication? Is it in English or no?
It is in
English.
Yes.
Oh, thank you so much. The books.
And now I would request our students to sing a song before we begin.
Excuse me, can you take a picture of the that we will receive?
Thank you.
Now I would request our guests to light the ceremonial lamp and formally inaugurate this session.
This side.
Yeah, the camera is there.
Oh.
So please come. Please come.
Yes, madam, you please.
There's the camera.
There is.
Please. You know how to write? Yeah.
Sure, sure. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
The name is Light the Candle.
Yes.
Guests from within Visva-Bharati and my students. I'm really not qualified enough to speak in front of guests who are here present. Nilanjana is the right person to do the honor, which I'm sure she will do it as we progress with today's session. Because this kind of intervention requires a knowledge of the language in which we are engaging with. Here it's definitely Spanish. And I strongly believe that we are part of a legacy which was probably started by the first generation of comparatists in Jadavpur University Department of Comparative Literature, and especially I'm remembering my Master Mashai Manavendra Bandhopadhyay, who had actually introduced this whole corpus of Latin American literature to us. Himani Banerjee, who was supposed to be here with us today, could not come because she is unwell. But I would say that we should acknowledge the lineage which we are part of, which is Manav Babu's engaging with your part of the world. And he contributed some meaningful books which he had collected over the years, and is with us in the next room. You can have a look at it. And I would say that Nilanjana also plans to start a journey by introducing Spanish in our next syllabus revision workshop that we are conducting, where we are in the process of introducing Spanish as one of the languages at the Center for Comparative Literature, which I really welcome. That would help us to meaningfully engage with the part of the world that we are interacting with today. I would definitely use the word interaction, I would use the word intermediaries, which we strongly believe as students of comparative literature that will be introduced to works of poets, of authors from your part of the world, which we will then incorporate and interweave in our understanding of our literary system from our location. As I said that I'm not the right person to actually talk about the intervention for which we have gathered here today, but let me take this honor to welcome you all formally this morning, and let's hear what we have to listen to. So thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Dhiman. I would now request Ms. Meenakshi Mishra, Director and Zonal Head, Indian Council for Cultural Relations, to please say a few words.
Good morning, everybody. Our esteemed guest, Professor Rodolfo de Gracia from Panama, author and member secretary, Panamanian Academy of Languages. Dr. Dhiman Bhattacharya, who is teacher in charge, Center for Comparative Literature, Visva-Bharati. Mr. Jose Antonio, the third secretary and consular diplomat at the Embassy of Panama, New Delhi. Dr. Nilanjana Bhattacharya, Center for Comparative Literature, Visva-Bharati. Distinguished academicians, dear students and friends. It is indeed an honor for ICCR to organize the prestigious lecture by the eminent author, Professor Rodolfo, in association with the Center for Comparative Literature, Bhasha Bhavana at Visva-Bharati University, Santiniketan, at an embassy of the Republic of Panama in India, while commemorating 60 years of diplomatic relations between India and Panama. So, India and Panama are two countries located in different regions of the world but have maintained cordial bilateral relations for past 60 years, which date back to 1962 when India established its embassy in Panama. It all started in the 19th century when the Indian diaspora arrived in Caribbean to take care of the jobs in the sugar and cotton plantations. The two countries have maintained friendly relations based on mutual respect, shared values and common interests. India and Panama have cooperated in several areas including trade and investment, culture, education and technology. The two countries have signed several bilateral agreements to enhance in these areas. Cultural exchange and education are also significant areas of cooperation between India and Panama. The two countries have a rich cultural heritage and have been promoting cultural exchanges to enhance mutual understanding and friendship and appreciation of each other's culture. Many Indian students have been studying in Panama and many Panamanian students have been studying in India. The exchange of students have been instrumental in strengthening people-to-people contact ties between two countries. In fact, this is one of the very important aspects of having a diplomatic relations, that is the people-to-people contact. And students plays an important role in bridging that particular the gap and bring the people from India and Panama together. In the area of technology, India and Panama have been exploring the ways to collaborate and share knowledge. We are delighted to inform that Professor Rodolfo is going to present his lecture at ICCR Kolkata in collaboration with Indo-Hispanic Language Academy on 21st February, that is tomorrow, while we are commemorating International Mother Language Day. Professor Rodolfo is also set to deliver a series of lectures and at JNU, Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi, and other institutions in New Delhi. Apart from this, he is also going to attend a conference at IIC, India International Center. With these words, I conclude and look forward to the presentations of today this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam. I would now request Mr. Jose Antonio Frias, Health Secretary and Consular at the Embassy of Panama, New Delhi, to say a few words.
I don't say more because Madame Meneki explained all information about this relation between the Panama. Thank you for these words. But Panama has celebrated this year 60-year relation between Panama and India. Our country is one small country in Central America would have a best hub for India because in the past the population Indian worked in the Panama Canal for the construction of the Panama Canal. Right now the colony Indian our countries is very important. For example, our Ministry of External Affairs have descendants of India. She speaks very nice Indian. In this occasion, we present a Professor Rodolfo in this Center of Comparative Literature because Rabindranath Tagore have one special position in our literature. Because the father, the literature Panamanian, have better expression about the Rabindranath Tagore. He was consul in Calcutta in 1930 8 in the past. For this reason, our country present now the professor, the Panamanian Academy of Language, and in this occasion, because we present you our literature, because our literature have expression about the vanguardism, expression about the lyrics, special, the Central American. We want to thank you for this reception that you offer us. Today we will present this relation that exists between Panama and Indian literature. I hope it can be the benefit to the Comparative Literature Center. And I hope this presentation have this information special about our literature and greeting for this reception. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Antonio. I would now request Mr. Rodolfo de Gracia Reynaldo to present his speech. Mr. Reynaldo is a member secretary of the Panamanian Academy of Languages. He is also a member of the Consejo Nacional de Escritores de Panama for the period 2014 to 2018. He has published several books. One of his books, Bajo Propio Riesgo, won the Premio Nacional de Cuentos José María Sánchez in 2011. His books, he has also published essays and books on Spanish language, El rumbo de nuestras palabras y el español de nuestros días. Professor Rodolfo.
Buenos días, estimados amigos.
Just excuse me for a moment. How do we do this? You speak and I answer?
Yeah. No.
Good morning.
A los organizadores de la Universidad Visva-Bharati y por esta invitación.
Thank you to the organizers of the University of Visva-Bharati for organizing this conference.
Quiero traer a este país en el que estuvo el maestro Rogelio Sinan una pequeña exposición de su poesía.
Now we are going to have here a brief exhibition of the poetry of Rogelio Sinan.
Para eso he titulado esta comunicación coordenada de la poesía de Rogelio Sinan, una aproximación a los versos del maestro.
So the title of this today's presentation would be the coordinates of the poetry of Rogelio Sinan and approach to the verses of the master.
El lugar de la poesía y el lugar de Sinan.
So the first section begins with the place of poetry and the place of Sinan.
Si partimos de la aseveración de que la poesía se encuentra en la esencia de las cosas, en la abstracción del pensamiento y en la virtud de captar con superior talento o con privilegiado don la interpretación única e irrepetible de la realidad del universo vertido en su forma material, que es el poema, estaremos de acuerdo con Octavio Paz.
If we begin with the assertion that poetry finds itself in the essence of all things, in the abstraction of thoughts, and in the virtue of better capturing and telling, or with the privileged gift, a unique and unrepeatable interpretation of the reality of the universe expressed in its material form of poetry, we would agree with Octavio Paz, who asserted that
Quien afirma aquello de que habla el poeta, el esto, el aquello, la rosa, la muerte, la tarde, la soleada, El asalto a las murallas, la reunión de los estandartes, se convierte para el lector en eso que está implícito en todo decir poético y que es el único o el núcleo de la palabra poética, la revelación de nuestra condición y su reconciliación consigo misma.
This is a quotation from Octavio Paz, that of which the poet speaks, within parentheses, the this and the that, draws death, a sunny afternoon, the assault of walls, a meeting of banners, parenthesis close, is converted for the reader to that which is implicit in all poetic words and which is the nucleus of the poetic word, the revelation of our condition and its reconciliation with itself. Unquote.
Si además, como cada ser humano posee una forma de decir, siempre otra y siempre única, caracterizada por la cosmovisión, la cultura, la lengua, el poeta, hecho de lenguaje, de historia, de memoria, de contactos e interrelaciones irrepetibles, de experiencias, busca su propia forma en el lenguaje que el mismo Paz ha denominado un decir poético. Ese decir poético que para nosotros constituye el discurso poético, entendido no solo en su forma gráfica o en su extensión textual propiamente tal, sino y sobre todo como modo particular de comunicar desde la concepción estética del lenguaje, se constituye en una de las características esenciales de la poesía vanguardista del primer cuarto del siglo XX y algunos años después, o en una curva temporal más extendida, como afirma J. de la Fuente.
Besides, if every human being possesses a manner of speaking, always different and always unique, characterized by their worldview, culture, language, etc., the poet, made of language, history, contacts, and unrepeatable interrelations of experiences, looks for her or his own style of language, which Paz called a poetic speech. That poetic speech, which for us constitutes the poetic discourse, understood not only in its graphic form or through its typical textual extensions, but also and above all as a particular mode of communication, as an aesthetic conception of language, is one of the essential characteristics of avant-garde poetry of the first quarter of the 20th century, and a few years later, on a more extended time curve, as affirmed by J. de la Fuente.
La vanguardia latinoamericana desarrolla su acción y propuesta en dos momentos igualmente importantes, uno que va de 1915 a 1929 y otro que va de 1930 a 1940. En el caso particular de Panamá, el vanguardismo tuvo una manifestación marcada y decididamente poética, aunque también en la narrativa.
I quote from J. de la Fuente, the Latin American avant-garde developed its action and proposal in two equally important periods, one ranging from 1950 to 1929 and the other from 1930 to 1940, unquote. In the particular case of Panama, the avant-garde movement took a distinct manifestation, especially in the realm of poetry and narrative.
La incorporación de Panamá a las nuevas corrientes literarias en 1929, con la publicación del libro Onda de Rogelio Sinan, supuso un hecho histórico, un verdadero hito, pues dio un giro de 180 grados a la poesía panameña, regida hasta entonces por los moldes esteticistas del modernismo de Rubén Darío, e incorporó a la literatura panameña en el nuevo decir poético.
The incorporation of Panama in the new literary currents in 1929, which happened with the publication of Onda, which is Wave, of Rogelio Sinan, was regarded as a historical act. a true hit. It completely changed the direction of Panamanian poetry, which so far was restricted to the aesthetic models of modernism, by incorporating the new poetic speech in the literature of Panama.
No obstante, la existencia de un verdadero vanguardismo panameño ha sido historiográficamente tema de discusión y debate entre los críticos panameños. Gloria Guardia, por ejemplo, niega de modo enfático la existencia del movimiento. Rogelio Sinan, el autor de Onda, no fue fruto del vanguardismo panameño, dice Gloria Guardia, no se forjó desde las sabias poéticas de nuestro suelo patrio, porque en Panamá no hubo una generación de vanguardia, ni hubo movimientos de vanguardia.
However, the existence of a true Panamanian avant-gardism has been historically a topic of debate among the Panamanian critics. Gloria Guardia, for instance, emphatically rejected the existence of any such movement in Panama. I quote Gloria Guardia, Rogelio Sinan, the author of Onda, was not a product of a Panamanian avant-gardism. It did not emerge from the poetic vitality of our own soil, because Panama neither had an avant-garde generation, nor there was any avant-garde movement. Unquote.
A este respecto, habría que argumentar que el vanguardismo no fue un movimiento genuinamente americano, sino europeo, por lo que a pesar de ser Sinan un joven poeta estudiante en Roma, con 24 años cuando viaja a la ciudad eterna, la mayor influencia la recibe en realidad el vanguardismo español, con Jorge Guillén a la cabeza, además de haber recibido influencia de Pablo Neruda, Oliverio Girondo, Vicente Huidobro, César Vallejo, a los que Rodrigo Miró llama la vanguardia sudamericana actuante.
In this respect, one could argue that avant-gardism is not genuinely American movement. It is European, which is why on Sinan, a young poet student in Rome, he was only 24 years old when he went to the Eternal City. A major in Girondo, Vicente Huidobro, César Vallejo, whom Rodrigo Miró called the acting South American vanguard.
Por su parte, Ismael García, crítico de culto, en su ya antológica Historia de la Literatura Panameña, 1992, no ve con buenos ojos la incursión de los poetas en la poesía nueva, que Verani denomina poesía pura, con un lenguaje que denota rechazo, reticencia y casi una apología del modernismo, y su permanencia se refiere a la nueva estética en los siguientes términos.
Another literary critic, Ismael Garcia, in his anthology, History of the Panamanian Literature, which was published in 1992, does not like the incursion of the poets into the new poetry, which Verani termed pure poetry, with an idiom that denoted refusal, reluctance, and almost an apology of modernismo, and its continuation. He refers to the new aesthetics in the following terms.
Aquellos versos, los de Onda, provocan la siguiente batahola. Muchos lo consideran como caprichos de niños, otros los encuentran irreverentes y prosaicos, los más los rechazan de plano y hacen burla y escarnio de ellos. El frente modernista está bien defendido y la plaza no caerá con facilidad.
I quote, those verses, that is the verses of Onda, provoked a consequent row. Many considered them to be whims of children. They found them irreverent and prosaic. Many others plainly rejected those verses, taunting and ridiculing them. The modernist front was well defended and the fortress would not fall easily. Unquote.
La mayoría de la crítica panameña, Alvarado de Ricor, Martínez Ortega, Segura Jiménez, García de Paredes, Ruilova, Caparroso, Barría Alvarado, coincide en reconocer la existencia de un vanguardismo panameño con características disímiles dado los diferentes momentos, etapas o generaciones por las que pasó, pero con una innegable impronta disruptiva.
The majority of the Panamanian critics like Alvarado de Ripoll, Martinez Ortega, Sequeira Jiménez, Garcia de Paredes, Reynaldo, Caparroso, Galia, Alvarado, etc. Agree that the existence of a Panamanian Avamarism with different characteristics, given the different moments, stages and generations through which it passed, but with an undeniably disruptive mark.
Al margen de la mirada postmoderna, a veces ultrateorizante, con la que hoy se pueda abordar la literatura de entonces, dejando de lado perfiles necesarios para la valoración integral del texto, lo cierto es que los saberes retóricos y discursivos con que se contaba permiten rescatar del enfoque epocal, válido pese a la renovación de los supuestos epistemológicos, la calibración exacta de lo que supuso la llegada del vanguardismo, su impacto, su recepción y los cambios que operó en las generaciones de poetas subsiguientes, lo cual es claramente reconocido por el poeta Sinan 50 años después en una entrevista con el crítico uruguayo Jorge Ruffinelli.
The postmodernist view, sometimes ultra-theorized, with which today it is possible to look at the literatures of that time, leaving aside the outlines necessary for an integral evaluation of the text, it is certain that the rhetorical and discursive knowledge with which it is possible to retain the focus of the epoch effectively, notwithstanding the renovations of the epistemological assumptions, calibrated exactly to the arrival of vanguardism, its impact, reception and changes which operated through the generations of the subsequent poets, which is obviously renowned for Sinan, even 50 years after an interview with the Uruguayan critic Ruffinelli.
Pregunta Ruffinelli, ¿tú crees que precisamente la vanguardia como nueva óptica, como nueva perspectiva sirvió para modificar la literatura? Responde Sinan, sí, cómo no. Por lo menos en Panamá la modificó completamente. Desde entonces los poetas empezaron a escribir con otro sentido del ritmo y con otro sentido de la metáfora que hasta entonces estaba de moda.
Ruffinelli asks Sinan, do you believe that the avant-garde is a new viewpoint, a new perspective sought to modify literature? Sinan said, yes, of course. At least in Panama, the literature was changed completely. From then on, the poets began to write with a different sense of rhythm and metaphor than what was largely practiced. Unquote.
Ciertamente, Sinan, a través de sus 4 libros, a saber, Onda 1929, Incendio 1944, Semana Santa en la Niebla 1949 y Saloma sin Salomar 1969, se presentará como un poeta con un estilo diferente, eso a lo que alude Octavio Paz cuando afirma: el estilo es el punto de partida de todo intento creador. Y por eso mismo todo artista aspira a trascender ese estilo comunal o histórico. 1967.
Certainly, Sinan, through his 4 books, Onda, which is Wave, published in 1921, Fire, which was published in 1944, Easter in the Mist, published in 1949, and the Unsung Working Songs, published in 1969, emerged as a poet with a different style. To this, Paz alludes when he says, I quote Paz, the style is the point of departure of all creative intent, and that is why all artists aspire to transcend the common or historical style. Unquote.
Dicho esto, aceptada la idea de que la poesía es atemporal, es una presencia omnipresente y un ser en el ser a través del yo poeta, del yo expresivo y de una búsqueda de la visión de las cosas, entendiendo que Sinan, el poeta, es a su vez la voz de Sinan, un universo a través del tiempo, más allá de la muerte, por cuanto que sus poemas traslucen su yo enunciativo del momento de la creación, pero también con la transmutación que supone otra u otras lecturas, otra recepción, partiendo del Sinan vanguardista, que no lo fue de una vez y para siempre, diremos con el autor de El arco y la lira, Octavio Paz, aplicándolo al caso de la obra poética de Sinan. El poema es mediación, por gracia suya, el tiempo original, padre de los tiempos, encarna en un instante. Paz, 1967.
This is said having accepted that poetry is atemporal, it is omnipresent, a being within the being, expressed through the ego of the poet, a search of the vision of things. The poet Sinan is simultaneously the voice of Sinan, the one and the many, across time, beyond death, as his poems show his enunciative ego at the moment of creation, and also the transmutation that can be found in other readings, other receptions. Beginning with Sinan, the avant-garde, which he was not always, we could say, with the author of the Bow and the Lyre, that is the book by Octavio Paz, applying it to the poetical works of Sinan. I quote Paz, "Poetry is meditation. By its own grace, the original type, father of all times, embodies in one instance." Unquote.
Honda, el primero de 4 libros de versos, escrito y publicado en Roma en 1929, con el respaldo del prestigioso intelectual panameño Don Manuel Roy, está compuesto por 45 poemas cargados de una cosmovisión propia del movimiento del que se nutre y cuyas principales características formales apuntan hacia el procedimiento de la imagen creada y la metáfora, así como la incidencia de la vertiente lúdica y el empleo del humor, la sinestesia, la agilidad y agudeza en la palabra poética.
Intellectual Don Manuel Roy is composed of 45 poems bearing that worldview of the movement which nourishes it and whose principal characteristics point towards the predominance of the created image and metaphor as much as the impact of the ludic aspect, the application of humor, synesthesia, agility, and the intensity of the poetic words.
El poema que da inicio al libro, Principio Romántico, está cargado precisamente de ese elemento visual, de la imagen descriptiva que aparece allí y en gran parte de la obra como un imperioso punto al que debe llegarse tras la lectura. Un corpus muy bien logrado nos va sumergiendo en una mágica ilusión óptica donde, como en el conocido vuelo de Dédalo e Ícaro, el poeta nos eleva, nos suspende y luego nos deja caer.
The first poem, Romantic Beginning, bears precisely this visual element which appeared there and largely throughout the book, like an imperative point to which we would return later. The following lines would immerse us into the magical illusion where, like the well-known flight of the Daedalus and Icaro, the poet hoists us, suspends us mid-air, and then let us fall.
Las etapas descriptivas o situacionales del poema se corresponden con su desarrollo progresivo. He aquí el poema. Yo era un ave sin alas, y tú fuiste mis alas. Entonces yo alcé el vuelo contigo al infinito en busca de verdad. Tú viste desde la altura otra ave perdida, sin sus alas, y bajaste a ayudarla. Yo quedé, ave sin alas, en el espacio, y ruedo todavía hacia el abismo.
The stages of the poem corresponds with his progressive development, and here goes the poem in my very mechanical translation. I was a bird without wings and you were my wings. Then with you I took a flight to the infinite in search of the truth. From high above you saw another bird, lost without its wings. You dived to save it. I was up there, a bird without wings, in the space. Still I rolled towards the abyss. Quote.
Poemas como Avión, Amanecer, Viaje, Sol, Frescura, entre otros, tienen como característica principal una evidente dualidad en el ritmo, el que marca, regulado y medido el movimiento acústico en la cadena hablada, y el cinético, que es el resultante de la capacidad lingüística del poeta y que nos sugiere, en la quietud de las letras atadas al texto, un verdadero espectáculo de movimiento que nuestra imaginación logra hacer efectivo.
Poems like Airplane, Journey, Sun, Freshness, among others, have as principal characteristics an evident duality of rhythm, which mark, regulate, and measure the acoustic movement in the spoken and the kinetic lines. This happens because of the linguistic capacity of the poet, and the quiet letters of the text suggest a true spectacle of movement which our imagination can make more effective.
Una luz rasga la noche, trepanando arriba nubes. Pareces estrella en marcha, avión, pupila que subes. Tu ruido, toques del viento roto en astillas por la hélice, se esparce bebiendo millas hacia el infinito. Miro, tu estrella que corre loca y las que apenas rutilan, mi pensamiento echa a andar, detrás de cuál, tras ninguna, más arriba, avión, Honda 1929.
And I quote from another poem, a light tears through the night, perforating up above the clouds. You look like a moving star, airplane, a pupil that goes up. Your noise, bursts of wind broken by the propeller, are scattered over miles towards the infinite. I saw your stars which move like crazy, and those which barely move. My thoughts start moving. After what? After nothing. Upwards. Unquote.
Aunque algunos críticos han visto en el poema Viaje una concreción de la ingenuidad poética del autor, recordemos que Sinan frisaba en los 25 o 27 años de edad. Hay en sus versos la agilidad rítmica que impone el nuevo modo de hacer poesía, 1929, y el logro técnico de la imagen visionaria. Las nubes escolares de escuela elemental han tomado sus libros de luz y se van. El caballo del viento las conduce sobre su lomo tierno, ya se van, ¡ea, ea! Y adiós, les va diciendo con sus pañuelos de humo las chimeneas. Viaje, Honda 1929.
Although some critics have noted in Journey a realization of the poetic ingenuity of the writer, we should remember that Sinan was merely 25 or 27 years old at that point of time. In his verses, there are the rhythmic agility which impacted the new ways of writing poetry and the technical detailing of visionary images. I quote from this poem called Journey. The clouds, students of the elementary school, have taken their books of light and gone. The horse of the wind carry them on his tender back, and there they go, ea ea. And goodbye, the chimneys bid them farewell with their smoky handkerchiefs. Unquote.
Por un lado, la capacidad del poeta de vincular las nubes con la imagen de los escolares a través del movimiento y del elemento libro al que por vinculación directa de la ubicación de las nubes se asocia con el sol, libros de luz. Por otra parte, la virtud de lograr imágenes ingeniosas por medio de la metáfora bien trabajada, caballo del viento, caballo que a su vez tiene un lomo tierno, la emoción o lo subjetivo asoma en el joven poeta, hasta lograr una ambientación donde no solo todo es poesía, sino que el lenguaje ya puesto en acción se entrelaza todo, conspira para dar paso a la imaginación efectiva del lector. Adiós le van diciendo, verso que sugiere movimiento a través de un pretérito, uso de la locución interjectiva ea, para cerrar con otra imagen metafórica que evidencia el dominio de Sinan sobre el lenguaje poético, los pañuelos de humo, para referirse a la humareda de las chimeneas.
On the one hand, the poet links the cloud which refers to the movement and the element book, which is directly linked with the clouds through the association of the sun, books of light. On the other hand, the quality of creating ingenious images through a well-worked metaphor, the horse of the wind and tender bag, create an ambience where not only everything is poetic, but also the language put into action intertwines everything to provide maximum scope to the imagination of the readers. Then he gives some other examples like goodbye, the chimneys bid them farewell, and the interjections like ea, and finally the poetic language like the smoky handkerchiefs of the referring to the smoky chimneys to make his point.
Pero además hay en Honda una profunda convicción del oficio poético. No podrá ser de otra manera tratándose del padre de la literatura panameña, del brujo, como lo llamó Luis Alberto Sánchez, con un lenguaje que denota belleza literaria plasmada en lo intensamente metafórico y en otros recursos expresivos. Honda tiene a su vez el mérito de no ser extraherizante y de guardar el equilibrio que le impone la mesura cuando el libro ha sido fecundado en la urbe, escenario rural, connotado sin dudas en esa ambientación que su contenido nos sugiere. Este último hace uso del lenguaje de la inmediatez, dinámico, que marcha a la velocidad de las propias imágenes, que sugiere como si se tratase de un poema para ser dramatizado, además de las interjecciones y las onomatopeyas, upa, tan, que conectan lo visual con lo sonoro para lograr el efecto de desplazamiento y añadirle un sentido casi humorístico al poema.
That is why poems like The Blemishes of the Sun and Ballad of the Naked Breast clearly reflect the rural scenario, which undoubtedly connote the ambience created by the contents of the poems. This phenomena makes use of language of immediacy, dynamic, which moves in accordance with the velocity of the images that follow. It is possible to dramatize a poem with the interjections and onomatopoeias, which connect the visual with the sonorous to create an effect of displacement, adding to it a humorous sense.
He aquí el poema. Mangos, mira, tantos. Oh, uno maduro. Dio un salto y salióse su seno desnudo. Yo salté del árbol. Upa, tan, qué rudo. Por mirar de cerca su seno desnudo. Me miró asustada, cubrió lo que pudo y huyó. ¿Qué robaba? Su seno desnudo. Lejana, lejana me envió su saludo. Yo seguía mirando su seno desnudo. Perfume silvestre de mangos maduros. ¿Por qué me recuerdas su seno desnudo?
Mangoes looked so many, oh, a ripe one, jumped around and came out naked. I jumped off the tree, Upa Gan, how rude, to see closely her naked breast. She saw me afraid, covered whatever she could, and ran. What could I still? Her naked breast, far, far away, she greeted me. I continued to stare at the naked breast. The rustic smell of ripe mangoes. Why does it remind me of her naked breast? Unquote.
El carácter popular de Balada del Seno Desnudo, su agilidad, su picardía, sensualidad y la rememoración de las peripecias juveniles que despierta en nosotros, por cuya magia logra el hablante lírico transportarnos al pasado, hacen de este poema uno de los predilectos. La alusión al mango, fruta de origen indio, pero de popular consumo en nuestros países tropicales, sobre todo en Panamá, es un elemento temático, lúdico y hedónico al que al mismo tiempo reviste al poema de un interés particular, ya sea por la analogía muy bien lograda, ya por su ritmo cadencioso, ya por las múltiples interpretaciones que pueden resultar de las lecturas particulares.
The popular character of the Ballad of the Naked Dress, his agility, slyness, sensuality, evoke memories of juvenile incidents in us. Through this magic, the lyrical speaker transports us to the past. The allusion to mango, an Indian origin fruit popular in our tropical countries and in Panama, is a thematic element and also ludic and hedonic at the same time, make the poem interesting, perhaps due to the successful analogy or for the rhythm or perhaps the multiple possible interpretations.
También se advierte en Onda humanismo profundo, cerebral, que no podía ser la excepción de la poética de Sinan. El trágico poema fue un siniestro voraz ocurrido en un inmueble cercano al Instituto Nacional la noche del 10 de febrero de 1944, en medio de un estado de guerra que agobiaba al mundo, Segunda Guerra Mundial, y que por tanto mantenía a todos en un constante temor de ser atacados.
Fire is the title of Sinan's second book of poems, published 15 years after the Avagar experience. With the patronization of Don Mario Preciado, the motive of these magisterial and tragic poems was a sinister incident occurred in a building near the National Institute on the night of February 10, 1944, in the middle of a state of war that overwhelmed the world and waged a constant threat of being attacked.
Como el mismo Sinan lo confiesa, aquella noche me sacó de mi sueño una explosión aterradora. Lo mismo que pensé fue que era un estallido de alguna bomba japonesa. La vorágine fue de tal magnitud y el pánico cundió y la muerte llegó sin sorpresas y sin aspavientos.
As Sinan himself confessed, and I quote, "That night a terrifying explosion woke me up from my sleep, which at first I thought was a Japanese bomb," unquote. The explosion was of huge magnitude, panic spread, and death was not surprising.
Estructurado en tres partes bien definidas y logradas, sobre todo por los títulos que la distinguen: la voz del pánico, la voz de la agonía, la voz de la plegaria, en los que la palabra voz constituye un sema de importante valor, por cuanto que frente a la muerte la voz parece ser elemento extinto ante una realidad que se debe acatar y un escarnio que se debe sufrir en el más completo mudismo.
Structured in three well-defined parts, each with a different title: the voice of panic, the voice of agony, and the voice of prayer, where the word voice constitutes an important thematic because in front of death, the voice seems to be an extinct element, a reality that one must obey, and the scenario that one must suffer.
Impregnado del simbolismo religioso de la Divina Comedia de Dante Alighieri y también de ese mismo ordenamiento medieval del mundo de los muertos, Sinan logra impregnarnos de una conmovedora cosmovisión que, como en una clara especie de tragedia griega, nos va llevando hacia un clima que se logra en el segundo de los apartados, la voz de la agonía, donde la imagen del fuego es elaborada poéticamente por el hablante lírico para transmitirnos en un intento de sinestesia, tacto, visión, el calor de las llamas y la agonía de los que mueren, que ya han muerto.
Pregnant with religious symbolism of the Divine Comedy and with some medieval order and with the same medieval order of the World of Dates, Sinan successfully provides us with a moving worldview which clearly, like a Greek tragedy, carries us towards his second part, the Voice of Agony, where the imagery of fire is poetically elaborated by the lyrical speaker in order to transmit to us the synesthetic effect, the heat of the flames and the agony of people dying who are already dead.
Pero que gracias a la magia de la literatura logran hacerse hablantes y comunicarnos su desesperanza, su voz muda. Por ello, un campo semántico bien logrado nos da la magnitud de los hechos, aunado a la fuerza descriptiva, sintética y comunicativa de las metáforas y las imágenes.
However, thanks to the magic of literature, he could also make his speakers communicate to us their despair, their muted voice. That is why an elaborate semantic reading can show us the magnitude of deeds, combining it with the force of description and of metaphors and images.
Incandescentes garfios dolorosos, furia de Dios en ráfagas, 1000 potros degollados trotando cielo arriba, con las crines al viento enrojecidas, lenguas de fuego ensayan muecas desde el techo, carne encendida.
And here are some examples of those metaphors and images. White, hot, painful chains, a flash of the fury of the god, 1,000 stars with their throats slit are trotting the sky above with their red mens flying. The tongues of fire tasting faces from the ceiling, burning meat.
La conmoción que de hecho causó al poeta tal evento la plasma en estos versos de una fuerza sin parangón en nuestras letras. Pero en el fondo de cada apartado, tras la ironía del lenguaje y tras la dolorosa contemplación de la muerte, con una impotencia desgarradora desde los márgenes, era cierto que no había agua, es muy probable que el poeta nos esté dejando traslucir una visión humana de la muerte, una protesta por tanta injusticia nacida de las circunstancias conjugadas y ensayadas para matar, en un claro afán de demostrar que la justicia tardía ya no es justicia. El hablante nos dirá en la voz de la plegaria.
The shock that caused the poet to talk about such an event in his verses gives these poems a force that is unparalleled in our literature. However, behind all irony and painful contemplation of each part, contemplation of death with a heart-rending importance from the margin, definitely there was no water. It is very much probable that the poet wanted to show us the human vision of death, a protest against so much injustice resultant from various circumstances. In a clear attempt to demonstrate that justice delayed is justice denied, the speaker in the voice of prayer tells us,
Que demasiado tarde se han abierto los ríos de la alborada, ya las llamas adormecen su cólera, ya para qué tanta agua, Señor, detén el agua, que respeten por lo menos la muerte.
I quote, how very late they opened the rivers of dawn. The anger of the flames was already falling asleep. Why so much water? Mister, stop the water. At least they should respect death. Unquote.
De los poemas contenidos en sus otros dos libros de versos, Semana Santa en la Niebla y Saloma sin Salomar, destacaremos el carácter reflexivo, depurado y litúrgico del primero, reflejado ya desde este elemento paratextual que es el título, y donde cada poema de 8 versos alejandrinos es un acto de contrición, una catarsis personal, un desahogo espiritual, una confesión de haber vivido precisamente en Taboga el escenario común de los 25 poemas de este poemario.
In the poems in his 2 other books, Easter in the Mist and the Unsung Walking Songs, we would also find the reflexive, refined and liturgical character of the previous works, reflected in the titles. Of the 8 Alexandrian verses, we see an act of contrition, a personal catharsis, a spiritual relief, a confession of having lived in Taboga. These common characteristics of these are the common characteristics of the 25 poems in this volume.
And the final paragraph. Del otro lado, diremos que es la pluralidad lo que caracteriza también ese sentido de humanidad que se vislumbran en poemas como Presentimiento e Invitación a la humanidad, a la humildad, Transparencia del hombre, Seguiremos andando, Júbilo y súplica, en los que advertiremos a un Sinan en la plenitud de su acto creador y nuevamente en la estación de llegada o de reposo a la que han arribado genios como Calderón de la Barca, Machado, Jorge Luis Borges, Rubén Darío, entre otros. Muchas gracias.
It is the plurality that characterizes the other volume and also the humanitarian values which can be discerned in the poem like premonition and invitation to humanity, transparency of man, we will keep on walking, joy and plea, and such other poems where we see the creative genius of Sinan, which is parallel to those of Calderón de la Barca, Machado, Borges, Rubén Darío, among others. Thank you. But if you have any questions, any doubts for the speaker, I'm sure he is willing to answer to your questions.
The mediation of another language, as you rightly pointed out, that there is a lyrical quality in the language that you speak and which probably connected with the lyrics when you read it in original and Nilanjana translated those in English. But what was intriguing for me as a practitioner of comparative literature was, without knowing Sinan as having a major in English, I could connect it with the significant contribution of James Joyce's Portrait of an Artist as a Young Man, where the epicenter was Paris, and for you, in this case of Sinan, is Rome, where he goes and he's working in his initial years. What I'm really interested is about the usage of Sinan again and again in the novel, Portrait of an Artist as a Young Man, which definitely talks about the epiphanic moment, the revelation of an artist, which is also a Kuntular Roman and a Bindu Roman. And here also we see a long span of Sinan's journey as a poet, where he is continuously integrating things not from the West, but thinking in terms of how the idea of mangoes going from this part of the world and integrating with the metaphors of the linkages that he's trying to establish within the quote-unquote West, which is again a very problematic area. So I would say that the intervention of the lyrics for us, which is the lyrical mode, and then remembering the prose narrative of James Joyce, which was in a way trying to introduce a different form of avant-garde within the English literary domain, probably will help us to redesign our syllabi when we talk about periods, when we talk about movement, when we talk about epochs from our location. I feel that this is a full circle for a literary practitioner like me, where we have been continuously talking about the literary interfaces with the contact zones which we know probably, and this is probably the zones that we do not know. So in a way then this is not only a diplomatic relationship between the two countries, but as you rightly pointed out that kultur, the cultural involvement of the two nations in terms of engaging meaningfully.
Muchas gracias. En alguno de sus ensayos, Rogelio Sinan hace referencia justamente a James Joyce, el Ulises, traducido por Borges, y en dicho ensayo, Sinan acepta que esa traducción de Borges de la última página del Ulises de James Joyce ha influido grandemente en su estilo. Por otro lado, en estas historias conectadas entre India y Panamá, es importante mencionar el trabajo del profesor Anil Dhingra, que en 1999 publicó un libro con algunos colaboradores nacionales titulado Aproximación a Rogelio Sinan, An Approximation a Rogelio Sinan. Y de modo pues que su estadía en la India valió también que, según propia confesión de Sinan en su ensayo Vivir en la India, fue ubicado en la calle, en el número 35 de la avenida paralela a Almeida y el río Holy, y por esa razón, dice Sinan, muy importante, pues por esa calle transita toda la vida religiosa, política y comercial de Bengala.
Entonces, aquí está, ¿hay algún consulado?
Sí,
¿En ese?
This is the arms
Vivir en la India, un ensayo aproximadamente de unas 10 páginas, a diferencia de Octavio Paz, que publicó un libro que se titula Vislumbres de la India, mucho más amplio, por supuesto.
Sinan has this essay about living in India, where he discusses his life when he was in India.
Next. Bueno, ahora Sinan con algunos escritores panameños. Este escritor es también un escritor famoso, Carlos Francisco Chamarrín. Sinan sí tenía una tendencia ideológica que por supuesto no perturbó el contenido de su obra, porque no fue juzgado por ser un escritor de izquierdas o de derechas. Al final, pues siempre sabemos que lo que perdura es la obra, ¿verdad? Carlos Francisco Chamarrín.
So this is another author, Francisco Chamarrín, and Sinan's position in Panama was not related to politics as such, beyond rightist politics or leftist politics, and his poems are more literary.
Bueno, Rogelio Sinan, Elsie Alvarado de Ricor, fue directora de la Academia Panameña de la Lengua, y otro gran poeta vanguardista, Ricardo Joaquín Bermúdez.
So Ricardo Joaquín Bermúdez is another vanguard poet, and Elsie Alvarado de Ricor was a member of
Academia Panameña de la Lengua.
The Panamanian Academy of Languages.
Our language is Spanish, but Panama have one academy special for our language, no? Because
Cuida el idioma, sí.
Panama keep that language Spanish since our interest in Panama, because Latin America now speak Spanish, but each country in Latin America have special academy because keep the better condition our language. I would say other important context, because Rogelio Sinan, for ours, is representative because Rogelio Sinan support our process, because the Panama Canal in the past was the United States of America. Rogelio Sinan has one particularity significant for to each Panamanian, because he support the situation about the Panama Canal. In the case, Rabindranath Tagore to support the independence of India, no? In our case, Sinan is same for the situation between the Panama and United States for the Panama Canal. No? You understand? It's the same significant for ours.
Una perspectiva es la psicológica, por ejemplo, Sigmund Freud, la influencia del subconsciente en el individuo, o la manifestación del subconsciente en el individuo, pero también plenilunio ha sido estudiada desde la perspectiva de los estudios postcoloniales o desde la mirada del subalterno.
This is a novel of Sinan, which has been interpreted from various perspectives, including psychological perspective, post-colonial, and other perspectives. Of Panama.
Next. Rogelio Sinan y José de Jesús Martínez. Este era un poeta de origen nicaragüense, pero radicado en Panamá y admirador de Omar Torrijos Herrera y de Fidel Castro.
Jesus Martinez is a Nicaraguan poet, but he lived in Panama for some time, and he also had a lot of impact on various Panamanian authors.
Siguiente.
Next.
Next. Enrique Jaramillo Levy, el escritor que más ha publicado en Panamá.
Enrique Jaramillo Levy is the most published author in Panama.
Next. En esta fotografía, esta señora es Berta María Cabezas, la esposa de Rogelio Sinan.
Berta Maria Cabezas is the wife of Rogelio Sinan.
Manuel F. Zárate, un autor importante del folclore panameño, a la izquierda.
Zarate has done important works on Panamanian folklore.
A la derecha, el escritor Mario Riera, en 1953 tendría Sinan 51 años, siempre dos menos.
So, to the right is the author Mario Riera.
Next. Con Gabriel García Márquez, el autor de 100 años de soledad y ganador del Premio Nobel de Literatura, del cual Sinan era muy amigo y también gran admirador.
So this is Gabriel García Márquez, who won the Nobel Prize. Sinan was a major admirer of García Márquez.
Next. En esta fotografía también García Márquez. Y al final, a la derecha, Ricardo P. Soler, también un importante filósofo panameño.
So in the middle we have García Márquez, and to the right there is Ricardo Soler, who is an important Panamanian philosopher.
Next. En esta fotografía, a la derecha, Ernesto Cardenal, poeta y religioso nicaragüense.
To the right we have Ernesto Cardenal, who is a Nicaraguan poet, and he also served as priest for some time.
Next. También en esta fotografía, al centro, Sergio Ramírez, poeta exiliado actualmente, poeta nicaragüense exiliado, que vive entre Panamá y España.
Sergio Ramirez in the middle we have, who is a Nicaraguan, but he has exiled now, so he now lives in Panama, sometimes in Spain.
Antonio Escarmeta, también escritor chileno, vivo actualmente, amigo también de Rogelio Sinan.
This is Antonio Escarmeta, Chilean author, a friend of Sinan.
Y en esta fotografía encontramos de pie al poeta guatemalteco, ganador del Premio Nobel de Literatura, Miguel Ángel Asturias, autor de El Señor Presidente.
So, standing right, we have Miguel Ángel Asturias, a Guatemalan author who has won the Nobel Prize for the President. His major work is the President, one of his major works.
Acá tenemos un congreso de escritores, también al lado de Sinan, a la derecha, Nicolás Guillén, autor cubano, autor de un libro llamado Songo Songo.
So to the right we have Nicolás Guillén, a Cuban author, very famous, and his first book was Songo Songo.
Este es un poeta colombiano.
In Yanes, to the left, the president of Mexico during that period.
Next, please. Acá Graham Greene y la dama Gloria Guardia, una de las mejores estudiosas de la obra de Sinan.
So with Graham Greene we have Gloria Guardia, who is one of the best critics of Panamanian literature. We actually referred to Gloria Guardia in his presentation.
Next, please. La familia de Sinan, por acá pasaremos brevemente. Rogelio Sinan tuvo 3 hijos, un varón y dos mujeres, dos niñas.
Sinan had a son and 2 daughters.
También con Rogelio, su hijo pequeño. Recordemos que Sinan es de 1902, por lo tanto la mayoría de las fotografías van a ser blanco y negro.
Sí. The photographs are mostly black and white because of the time.
Luego los congresos, por acá también pasaremos un poco rápido. Congreso de escritores.
This is Writers' Congress.
Sinan al final. Sinan también congreso de escritores. Next. También con intelectuales panameños.
Various Panamanian intellectuals.
Next. En Congreso de México.
This is a conference in Mexico.
Y otros momentos para terminar. Cuando va rumbo a Chile en 1925.
Sinan on the way to Chile.
Luego rumbo a Roma en 1926.
Rome.
En Chile tuvo contacto directo con Pablo Neruda, Gabriela Mistral, que fue quien hace un busto a Rogelio Sinan.
So in Chile, Sinan actually met Neruda and Gabriela Mistral, and Mistral asked him to continue his study in Rome.
En 1953, el periódico El Nacional de México convocó un concurso de cuentos y ganó Rogelio Sinan, y pues acá le están haciendo entrega de una certificación.
So this is a competition of essays which was conducted by a Mexican journal, and Sinan won the award.
También cuando se publicó luego esa obra fue Plenilunio.
Plenilunio is a novel that we saw earlier. This is during the publication of that.
Y bueno, su otra etapa como cónsul también, como embajador de Panamá en México en 1957.
So in 1957, he was the ambassador of Panama in Mexico. This is Bharatis.
No, ambassador, first secretary.
This is during theater, a work of theater.
Bueno, igual, la cucarachita mandinga en 1970, lo que significa que Sinan tiene 68 años.
This is when Sinan had 67 years, since Sinan was 67.
Do you know about the mouse Perez? This lyrics, Rogelio Sinan, the name is Rato Perez. Rato Perez cayó en la olla. This is one expression that Rogelio Sinan. When you go to the Latin American about the mouse Perez, is born for the Rogelio Sinan. It's more famous to Latin American about the mouse Perez is for this.
La siguiente, next. También una condecoración. Next. Y estas fotografías ya de Rogelio Sinan en diferentes momentos.
These are all photographs of Rogelio Sinan in different moments.
Un dibujo de Snake Pretty, creo que es indio, pero no estoy seguro, en 1932.
A drawing of Sinan, a portrait. This is one of the most important journals of Panama, the Gracia.
Y también otra de las más importantes y antiguas, la revista Maga.
This is This is another very important and one of the oldest journals, Maga.
Este es el libro que publicó el doctor Anil Ligra en 1999, con diferentes ensayos de escritores tanto de Panamá como de India sobre Rogelio Sinan.
This is the book which Anil Ligra published in 1999, which has essays on Sinan by Panamanian authors and also Indian authors.
Del Centro de Estudios Hispánicos.
That is the City of Panama.
La voz de Rogelio Sinan.
La lírica in our language is move the hand. For example, con quejas de indio y grito de chombo dentro de la cantina de Panchamanchá, trashumando ambiente del quimba y pilombo, se oye que la cumbia resonando está. This is one expression about our lyrics, no? Yes.
Muchas gracias.
He says, thank you for your patience, your interest, and attention. So, if there are no more questions, then we should move on. A formal vote of thanks before we end this. Well, it would have been impossible to organize this without the help of the Embassy of Panama, New Delhi. And we are particularly grateful to Senor Jose Antonio Frias, Third Secretary and Consular, or Embassy of Panama, New Delhi. We are grateful to the Government of India and particularly Indian Council for Cultural Relations, Delhi and Kolkata. We are extremely grateful to Madam Meenakshi Mishra, Director and Zonal Head, ICCR Calcutta, and Ms. Renu Prithani, Program Coordinator, ICCR. We are very much grateful to the Visva-Bharati Authority for granting us permission to organize this program. We express our thanks to the Principal Bhasha Bhavana and her staff. Principal could not be here because of her busy schedule, but we are extremely grateful to her. We are very much grateful to the Center for Journalism and Mass Communication, particularly their in charge, Dr. Maushumi Bhattacharya, who has arranged for the recording of this entire event, and the students of CJMC which we have here, Tonusri Devdotto and Riganki. Thank you so much.
I am grateful to our teacher in charge, Dr. Dhiman Bhattacharya, and my colleague, Dr. Shoma Mukherjee, because without their support, it would have been impossible to organize this. And as always, thank you so much, our students, scholars who have worked so much for the last few days to make this possible. And I thank our colleagues and students who are here, who are still here as part of the audience. So thank you so much, everyone. We would end with the Ashram Sangeet.
Let me take this opportunity to thank Dr. Reynaldo for putting things together. Like, it's a wonderful job she has been doing, and we hope that we'll be able to support her as a center and Visva-Bharati fraternity, because we are in the process of introducing Spanish as the language here. Yes, at least at the center. Thank you so much.
শান্তি নিকেতন।